Hello, hello, kings and queens and everybody in between. Welcome back to another episode of the Goddess Complex podcast. And we are officially in witchy season. And of course, the Goddess Complex is the gift that just keeps on giving. So I'm so honored to have this next podcast guest come to you guys straight from Australia herself. This is Miss Bridget of Biddy Tarot. I'm sure you all know her. You know her work. I know her work. I'm so excited for this conversation. Darling, tell the people who you are. For those people that may not know, let's let them know. Who are you? Where are you from? Why are you here today? Let's chit chat.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for having me today. And it's such a beautiful honor to be able to talk with your community. And we're going to get into all the sort of juicy stuff around tarot and manifesting and everything in between. But yeah, a little bit about me. I'm the founder of Biddy Tarot. I started Biddy Tarot way back in 1999
Wow.
when I was just starting to learn tarot for myself. And, I was like a 18, 19-year-old then. And I desperately wanted to find out more about how to use these cards in a more profound
Mhm.
way. But I really struggled to find a community that I could really relate to. Everywhere I looked, it was sort of like older women with their tarot cards. I'm like,
Yeah.
where do I fit into all of this?
Yeah, for
So
sure.
yeah, that's where I started just to create my own website. And that's where Biddy Tarot was born because I just wanted a place that was more open, more inclusive,
Mhm.
to be able to share all of the insights and the wisdom that I was receiving from the tarot cards. And then I wanted
Mhm.
to be able to share that with others. Because I don't know about you, but like tarot is often kind of shrouded in all of this mystery and like people want to keep it secret. And I'm like, why would we want
Mhm.
to keep it secret? This stuff is
Yeah.
awesome and it helps
Yeah.
so many people. So yeah, that's really what inspired me to birth Biddy Tarot. And now we are like helping literally millions of people every year to interpret the cards. We have certification programs, courses, books, decks, you name it, everything under the sun around tarot.
Yeah. Literally, so I started reading tarot when I was 17, and I went, and about to be 35, and I went professional right around my Saturn return, and you were one of the first resources that I found. And it was absolutely insane. You're one of the very first resources that I found. So I know that my listeners are like fangirling right now. Uh, and so I want to ask you this. Yesterday, I was having a conversation with one of my witchy colleagues, and we were talking about how one of the big questions that we get is like, how do I learn the tarot more? Right? Like, how do I learn the cards? How do I memorize the cards? And she goes, you have to roast yourself for years. And I'm like, that is so true. Because one of the ways that I learned the tarot was giving myself readings and writing in that tarot journal. So I would pull the Hierophant, for example, before I'm digging in the book. What am I noticing out of that card? What color patterns am I noticing? How many people are in the card? How's the card making me feel? Is it coming in upside down, right side up? All of that stuff on repeat, which is really what helped me like really learn my craft. Um, what about you?
Yeah, you know what? The way I approached it when I first started was quite different. So I
Yeah.
thought, okay, this is a skill to be mastered. And I did
Yeah.
pretty well at school. I, went to university and so on. So I'd been trained to look at things from a very academic perspective.
Same.
And, like at
Hmm.
school, it's all about like just memorize, rote, learn, like commit
Very
that
much
stuff to
so.
memory. Doesn't matter what you think or you feel about it. It's whether you get
Yeah.
it right or wrong, right?
Yeah.
And so I went about just, yeah, studying my butt off, and reading every single book, writing all of the notes. And it was exhausting, to be
Hmm.
honest. It
It
was
was,
absolutely
yeah.
exhausting. Yeah. And I put so much pressure on myself to have to remember absolutely everything about every card. And then what would happen is I'd sit down, I'd do a reading, I'm pulling the cards, and then my mind would go blank, or I start freaking out, going, "Oh, have I got the right meaning?" I'd be like flipping over to the books. And I realized, like, even though I was putting in so many hours to like memorizing the cards, that what I wasn't doing is I wasn't trusting my intuition. I wasn't
Yeah,
actually feeling into
right.
these cards. So it's an absolute delight for me to hear that, the way that you've been like learning and integrating tarot is to experience it, because
Experience
that
it,
was the
yeah.
that was a turning point for me, is to go,
Hmm.
I can't think my way through this. That's not what
No,
tarot
that
is.
isn't. It's not what tarot is. Speaking of which, that makes me think of a question. What do you think is the biggest misconception about tarot and or tarot readers like ourselves?
Oh, I have a few actually.
Yeah, right.
And I think one of the biggest misconceptions is you've got to be a psychic to be able to read tarot. And
Hmm.
I used to think that too. I used to do all the like, I would do candle gazing to try and
Yeah,
improve
yeah,
my psychic
yeah, same. Oh my
powers.
God, yeah.
And the little, I don't know if you remember, there were the ESP cards and you would
Yes,
like
I
guess
have
what
them.
someone's. Yeah. I did all of
Oh my
that. And I
God.
was like desperately trying to, activate these superpowers.
Hmm.
And like nothing was really happening. And so I thought,
Hmm.
oh, am I actually going to be able to do tarot? Like I
Yeah,
can't see dead people, I don't see these crystal
right,
clear in the future.
right.
But what I realized, like over time, is that you don't actually have to be psychic or intuitive to read tarot. Tarot helps you become more intuitive, more psychic.
Yeah, it sure does, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's like
Yeah,
the vehicle to activating that intuition in yourself. So I think that's number one, is like you don't have to be gifted or you don't have to be special to read tarot. Actually, anyone can read tarot.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so true.
And then
Uh,
the other thing is like this whole concept of tarot as um, like a fortune telling tool, right? So,
oh God, I can't stand
yeah,
it.
yeah,
Calling us fortune tellers.
yeah. Tell me my future. Oh, okay, pull the
Oh
cards.
my God. I know.
Right. And then, like
Um,
in all the TV shows or the movies, I've just seen that I didn't see the whole, I just saw the trailer of
the
Tarot.
tarot movie.
Yep.
Oh my God. I saw the trailer too, and I was like, of course they're coming out with a movie called Tarot. Of course the
Oh,
cards come alive, and the only cards we see are devil and death. Of course this is, of course, of course, of course.
I know.
It's
And
so
then
ridiculous.
my favorite card, the High Priestess, they massacred her. They made her into
I
like
bet they
this,
did.
priestess of death and
That's
whatever
exactly why I
else.
didn't want to watch it either, because I knew they were just going to massacre the deck, and it's no good. No bueno.
Yeah. So it's no wonder like a lot of people think, oh, well, tarot is it's evil, it's satanic, it's
Hmm.
it's going to make bad things happen. I'm really scared of it.
Hmm.
Or, like tell me what my future holds.
Yeah,
And I mean, yes, you can use tarot in that way,
right,
like do it to kind of predict where things are heading.
right,
But here's what happens when you do that is like, if you're just going, okay, well, tell me what's going to happen, where does your power go? Like, do you own
right,
that power? Or is that being now
right.
like, oh, fate's taking me somewhere. I can't do
Hmm.
anything about my future.
Oh my God, so
And
true.
so yeah, I would much rather think about like, what is it that I want to create? What are my dreams? What are my goals? And then how
Hmm.
can I, move in this present time and space so that I can manifest those goals? And then tarot
Right.
is awesome at going, okay, well, here's what's going on. Here's some of your limiting beliefs,
Hmm.
challenges, your opportunities.
Hmm.
If you go in this direction, this is what you might experience. And
Yeah,
then you can make choices from there. I'd
I
much
like
rather be
to.
in that space.
Exactly. I like to call tarot like a reflective sounding board for your soul almost. It's like a place to sit in deep reflection with yourself and with what's actually happening, kind of step outside of the situation or situations or whatever's going on. 'Cause sometimes we get so wrapped up and so like wrapped up in here. And so that's why I love it. I love tarot so much. It's changed my life.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. And I love it
Yeah.
when, just hearing how much, tarot does transform people's lives. And that is the power of stepping outside of this whole tarot as a fortune telling tool, but using it as a
Mm-hmm.
manifesting tool. Because when we
Mm-hmm.
do that, that's when it is transformational. That's when we can transform our own lives, when we're reading cards, but then even, if we're reading tarot for others, we're also helping them transform their lives and activate their intuition, which is super powerful.
Exactly. Oh my God, it's so true. I always say the tarot never lies. Because I don't know about you, but like I haven't had anything come off inaccurate. Like it's kind of eerie at how much the tarot never lies, especially if you know how to read the cards. You know,
Yeah.
um, oh my God. So I want to pick your brain about this. Speaking of knowing how to read the cards. So I've been calling this era that we're in where all of a sudden it's finally cool to be a witch. It's cool to be a tarot reader. It's cool to do the work that we do. I'm sure you remember a time where it wasn't. Like I got my first deck at 17 and I got that deck in hiding,
Yeah.
which is great on one end, but also nerve-wracking on the other end because, I've been calling this era like a spiritual revolution because people are finally recognizing how important this sort of soul work is to create the life that they desire and deserve. But with that being said, we're also in this age of Aquarius. And so the tech is going up. So we've got these apps like TikTok coming on and these people that are doing this pop culture astrology and like sign shaming and like doing these readings online and, you know, um, not interpreting things correctly at all times. To kind of say it lightly. But then at the same time, at least for me, on the other token or on the other hand, I'm so happy that we don't have to be in such hiding anymore like we had to not even 5 years ago. We've just seen such a drastic change in the spiritual community in such a big way. And I'm so like happy that so many people can get their hands on this soul work, whether it's Akashic Records, whether it's channeling, starseed work, tarot, whatever it is, this very transformational work. What do you think about this? I feel like people in the spiritual community have been very polarized on either side around more people getting their hands on the work.
Mm. Yeah, and like we live in a world of duality, so there's always going to be light
Hmm.
and shade to everything, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Positives and negatives. For me, my mission has always been to bring tarot into the mainstream.
Yeah.
And I realize there's so much positive stuff around that. That's awesome. I really want to get a deck in everyone's hands and they're able
Hmm.
to use it in a way that transforms their life. But I also get like there is a shadow side to that, a negative side.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I do kind of grapple with, say, TikTok tarot because I've seen the
TikTok
videos. I'm like,
tarot.
oh, this
Yeah.
is
It's good.
interesting.
Interesting,
And
right? Yeah.
and I hear both sides. I can see what the
Hmm.
creators are trying to do, and I think, okay,
Yeah.
well, like it is kind of awesome that they've got millions of views. I don't know
Right.
if I agree quite with the way that they're working with tarot, but
Hmm.
maybe this is actually a good thing of how they're sharing tarot in a way.
Right.
But then I also hear on kind of like the viewer side, the consumer, sometimes it can create this more addictive need to keep watching, like, oh, well, this message is for me and I've got to like listen and
Hmm.
change my
Hmm.
life because of this one TikTok.
Hmm.
So yeah, look, I don't know. I'm not sure. I think with anything, there's always going to need to be like a clear path forward, and you can start to work out. It's a bit of the bullshit detector around.
Yeah.
Is this actually really healthy and aligned for me, or is it not? Both as a consumer and as a creator.
Right.
And like even with TikTok, like my team goes, "Oh, Bridget, we really need to be on TikTok." And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I don't
Yeah.
feel like it. I
Yeah, I
avoid.
know. It took me a long time to bite the bullet too. I'm on TikTok, but like not really. So like one somebody from my team, she does a lot of my TikToks with all my B-roll and stuff like that. But I also too found myself in this space of resistance. And then it's almost kind of like you said, you have to kind of think about what is the mission here, right? And the mission is to spread the word and to honestly get this like stigma off of spiritual work and spiritual providers. It's like icky stigma, that like we're demonic or we're spreading hate or we've got long crooked noses, like all of this stuff that is just so silly.
Yeah.
So absolutely silly. And, I think the best place to do it, I guess, is on these social media platforms. It's going to be so interesting to see where we're at as a collective in general, especially around this topic in like 5, 10 years time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm really curious to see the impact that AI will have, particularly like in the tarot industry. I'm already seeing it
Yeah.
where there's, these AI created personalities, like there actually is pictures of a woman and who will do your tarot reading for you, but it's all AI generated.
What?
Um, yeah. And again, I think there's positives and negatives to it because the
Wow.
positive is that you can have an experience of a tarot reading, but the negative is it's not a person, it's not energy, like it's not energetic. And
No.
if I don't know if it's concealed about whether it's AI or not. I don't know if they're open about that part. But yeah, it's just interesting, and I'm seeing more, tarot apps that are AI generated. And again, it's just balancing. There's a fine line. I do think that there's a place for very ethical AI usage.
Yeah, ethical
Tarot.
keyword, right.
Yeah, but then I think there's also a very it flips very quickly from one to the other of where it's actually not
Well, I
doing
mean,
it.
let's be real. Humanity has always had an issue with being ethical. That's been like that's been like the bane of our existence since we got here, right? What are ethics and where is the line? We don't know. We're gonna cross it anyway. So, I mean, not to have such a glim or gloomy look on the future, the AI stuff kind of tweaks me out a little bit. I'm such a pen and paper sort of gal. But it is the future. So I'm like, and I'm an Aquarius moon, which is funny enough. So I should be here for it. But I don't know, I'm more in the starseed type Aquarius moon vibes versus the let's use chat GBT AI sort of vibe. But what are you gonna do?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I had a
Mm.
question for you, Bridget. So okay, I know I was taught, and tell me if you do this, but like the tarot card years. So for example, we're in 2024, 2 + 2 is 4, plus 4 more, 8 year strength year. Next year will be in a 9 year, a hermit year. At the beginning of every year, I always do an episode on the tarot card of the year. And it's so funny that we're doing this because I was just looking back at previous episodes and like I should listen to that strength year and see what's going on with that. What are your thoughts on this year being a strength year for yourself, your business, and for the collective?
Yeah, it's so interesting. And I'm glad we're having this conversation because I have not reflected on it, since the very
Yeah.
beginning of the year. So I appreciate this. Because yeah, we do tune into that energy of the year and this being
Hmm.
strength year. If I kind of connect in with like the energy of the strength card, the things that I see strongly are this idea of like gentle power and persuasion,
Yeah.
and being able to affect and impact change, but not through force and brutality, but through,
Mm.
just more subtle and ways. And I think of, say, like light workers. We were saying this before we jumped on.
Yeah.
Oh God, I
Yeah.
hate that light worker is so cliche, but you know,
Right.
um, but I think light workers are working more and more on the energetic realms. And I think we work as
Hmm.
that energy of the strength card, that we are creating change and transformation, but through much more subtle ways. Sadly, there's still a lot in the world that's kind of trying to rule by force and power and,
Right.
violence and so on. But I do really feel like the way of the future is to be operating from that more strength, that subtle power and influence space.
I
Um,
love how you describe the strength card because I find that tends to be a hard card to interpret, especially for newer tarot readers. So I love that idea of this kind of like subtle strength and not brute strength. I thought that was great. So I just wanted to point that out for people listening.
Yeah, awesome. I'm so curious, what stands out for you? What's been a major theme for you from this card?
Oh God. How much time do we have? Um Well, for me personally, so I don't know if you know, but I'm on a TV show called 90 Day Fiancé. And we've been filming now for a few years. And we're finishing up this last little bit, this last hurrah. And I think for me in the year of 2024, just continuing to be like standing firm in that strength of knowing A, my boundaries, and B, knowing who I am, and C, not really caring if Bob from Twitter wants to judge me. Like, I'm still gonna do my big one, and I'm still gonna do this work, and I'm still gonna deliver this medicine. I'm still gonna show up for myself. I'm still gonna show up for this soul work that I've been doing, and I'm still gonna be authentic to who I am. So for me, that has really been a big lesson, the strength card and staying authentic to who I am. When you're in that like matrixy world, you know, they want to pull the drama out of you and they want to put you in situations that are extra dramatic and a little chaotic. And, you know, you really have to know who you are and not get caught up in that because it can be very easy to. So, as the year comes to a close, I'm very proud of myself for staying authentic to who I am because I've seen a lot of the folks that I work with in that arena get caught up for more clout, if you will. Um, so yeah, that's really been a big one for me, I'd say.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, because I'm also just kind of connecting in with that concept of dealing like with animal instinct and what can
Yeah.
emerge as like rage and drama. And
Hmm.
and the woman though is she's able to work through those feelings in a much more tempered, calm way. And so what I'm kind of reading between the lines for you is that, you've had the choice to either operate and like respond with rage. You could be very
Yeah.
angry at the people who might be
Hmm.
attacking you
Hmm.
or whatever, or get
Hmm.
caught up in the drama and let all of those like instinctual responses come through. But
Yes.
you're being that woman, you're patting the line.
I'm petting the lion. I'm not the lion. No, thank
That's it.
you. No, thank you. Oh my God, I love it. I love it. And so next year, 2025, we are going into a hermit year. And I'm not going to lie, I'm kind of really excited about it. So to me, the hermit is, it's the scholar, it's the person who's studying, the teacher, where you kind of like go off by yourself to really do that inner soul work. So I feel like, should we take the invitation? 2025 can be a big year of growth and transformation for us as a collective. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I love it. And I think, I mean, the world's always going to be chaotic, right? But I'm
Right.
anticipating another year of extra global chaos.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, the hermit comes at a very good time to remind us that we need to follow our own inner light and our own
Yeah.
guidance.
Yeah.
And the thing that appeals to me most with like the hermit card is he's holding that lantern. And that lantern, it's not a giant floodlight. It's not something that
Right.
shows miles
Yeah.
ahead. It really only shows the next few steps. And
Yeah.
yet he has such wisdom and trust in himself that he's able
Mm.
to just use that light, that lantern, to light up what is the next step that I need to take. And then that will
Hmm.
guide me to the next step and the next. I don't need to see the entire path, but
Right.
I trust that every step I take will lead me to the next one and the next one. And for
Uh,
me, that's very much about, yeah, trusting the process, trusting our inner guidance system, not needing to have all of the answers straight away, not needing to have the grand master plan, um,
exactly.
and just being okay with one step after the next.
I love that. I never thought about that with the hermit card. That's so true. That lantern is literally all you can see is just the first couple steps in front of him. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Oh,
he's wise enough to know I'm going to be able to figure this out. If you think about like maybe there's been times in your life where everything feels quite uncertain, there's a lot of
mhm.
change happening, and you desperately want to know like how am I going to get myself out of this? What's the
Right.
long-term plan? Like I just need to
Right.
know that there's a solution and I'll get to the other side. But the
Mhm.
hermit's saying to you actually, no, you just got to put one foot in front of the other and just trust that you are that hermit, that very wise old man or woman
Mhm.
that can trust themselves and back themselves to know that no matter what happens, they're going to get through this
That's it.
to the other side. Yeah.
Oh, so true. So true. Another question for you on the tarot. What do you think, in your opinion, is like the most misunderstood card in the deck? Heavy
Oh,
question, I know.
got to be the death card.
Yeah, right,
You
right.
know,
I would say
probably because
death or the devil.
yeah, both of those.
Hmm.
Particularly like to, general public people, because TVs and movie shows, I think,
Right.
like completely ruined tarot.
Yeah,
And they,
agreed.
it's always the thing of like someone is dropping dead, or then people think, oh, well, if there's a devil
Hmm.
card in the deck, then it must be a satanic, tool that you're
Hmm.
using, which is,
Hmm.
as we know, it's not true. But I think amongst tarot readers, I find that actually the Hierophant and the Emperor seem to be the two cards that people are a bit like, ugh, about. I don't know.
Tell me more. Tell me more. Okay, so how do you interpret the Hierophant and how do you interpret the Emperor? Was it the Emperor or the Empress that you said?
Emperor, I think.
Emperor.
It's
Yeah, I love that you brought up among tarot readers. That's good.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I think with Hierophant, because it's so, it's just got a religious connotation to it. And it's got that
very
whole
much
idea
so.
that you've got to follow a leader or a guru and
Hmm.
do what you're told and so on. So I think naturally people who are drawn to tarot are typically those who would probably identify as spiritual and not
Yeah,
religious,
right.
or have been religious in the past and have made that decision to move to a more spiritual lifestyle. And so I
Hmm.
think that can bring up a bit of the ick factor of like, oh, I don't want to be institutionalized.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but I do think that that card actually has a lot of value in terms of, actually, this takes us back to the whole thing of tarot on TikTok,
Yeah.
because I think like, yeah, awesome, we're getting tarot out in a really big way. And I would love to be able to coach some of the creators who are reaching millions and just show them just a few simple techniques of like, here's how
Yeah.
to actually interpret tarot cards.
Interpret it right, right.
And because sometimes, yeah, we just do need a little bit of teaching and guidance. Because remember,
Hmm.
what follows the Hierophant is the lovers, which is
Right,
not just about love and relationships, but
right.
it's also about being able to make choices for yourself.
Hmm.
But you got
Hmm.
to learn a little bit. It's like how I've got teenage girls, and I'm like, you need to
Yeah,
just listen to me first, then you can decide
exactly.
what you want to do.
Oh my God, so funny. I love it. I feel so validated right now because like everything you're saying is everything I say, and I'm like, I'm doing a good job.
Yes, you are.
Oh my God, I love it. I love it. Nothing's wrong with a little bit of validation. So with okay, so we talked about the Hierophant. Now let's talk about the Emperor. Do you feel like among tarot readers, the Emperor gives other readers the ick because of that like energy around like rulership and being ruled and like boundaries and all that? Because the way that I look at the Emperor, and maybe I'm, that outlier, which I often am, and the way I look at that Emperor is like not only balance, because it's a four card, but also like taking control of what's yours. So like when I see the Emperor as like a power card, when I get that card or when I get it for the querent, I'm like, do your big one. Like you got this. You are in the driver's seat?
Yeah, yeah, I love it. Yeah, it's so interesting, because actually, even taking a step back from this, if you read cards and you find that you've got a card or two in the deck that you just hate, that
Yeah,
you see it
yeah,
in reading like, oh, not that card again.
yeah.
I think it's a great opportunity to go, okay, well, what's the light and shade of this card? What are some of the real
Very great
strengths of it?
practice.
And what are the
Hmm.
things that are repulsing you? And then what does that
Hmm.
show you about yourself and your own lived experience, right? Where are you creating this kind of resistance in your own life? Because I think
Yeah.
with the Emperor, what some people feel the resistance around is, maybe they've experienced the wounded masculine energy in the past.
Mm.
They've
I never thought of
experienced
that.
power and authority in a way that has been unhealthy or, undermining. And so seeing that energy can feel repulsive in a way.
Yeah.
But we know, like the flip side, think about not the wounded masculine, but the healed masculine. And the healed masculine
Hmm.
can be very decisive, clear, in their power,
Hmm.
very clear about boundaries,
Safe.
disciplined,
Yeah.
safe, yeah, protective.
Hmm.
So I think it's always, I find it so interesting when someone says to me, "Oh, I hate that card." I'm like, "Oh, that's great. Let's like
Let's
explore
let's
that a
talk
little bit
about it,
more."
right? Speaking of
Yeah.
which, let's talk about it a little bit. So my card, I won't say that I hate the card, but I'll say this card loves to show up and give me lessons I didn't ask for. And that is the moon for me.
Oh, yeah.
Hmm. And I was thinking about answers to those questions you were asking around the moon. And I don't know, for me, I guess it's kind of like whenever the moon has come up, when I'm giving myself a reading or I'm asking the cards for some guidance, it's around a subject matter that I think that I can see clearly, but clearly I'm not because I'm pulling the moon. And then like later on, I go back to my little tarot journal and like everything comes into fruition. I see what I wasn't seeing clearly. But it's like, you can kick your own butt sometimes. But I guess this is why we do this work to help us see things more clearly. You know what I mean? What are your thoughts on the moon card? I find that that too is another card that it's watery, it's blurry, it's Neptunian, Cancerian, with that crustacean down by the water. It's ominous. That's a good word for it. It's a very ominous card. What are your thoughts on the moon?
Yeah, so interesting. Yeah, I think it can really represent like things are not what they seem.
Yeah,
It doesn't necessarily mean that they're bad, and things are
right,
like,
right.
heading in the wrong direction. But
Hmm.
just it's kind of like you need to look a little bit deeper. And
Yeah.
for me too, like the moon's a lot about fear, self-doubt, limiting
Hmm.
beliefs, and what's lying beneath the surface,
Yeah.
and beyond what's in our conscious awareness, but what's really happening in the subconscious, what's affecting us
Hmm.
day to day that we might not be
Hmm.
fully aware of. And actually, this is where I love tarot because
Yeah.
tarot cards are here to help us access our subconscious and what is
Yeah.
underlying everything. And
Yeah.
we can really, like you can do all your journal prompts as much as you like, which is lovely, but most of
Hmm.
that's accessing the conscious mind. But then I
Yeah.
always love to integrate some tarot into that. So if you journal and then you go, okay, I'm journaling what I think are my limiting beliefs. And now let's pull some cards and see, actually, let's just do a play one. Oh, okay. So let's
Yeah.
say you get Knight of Pentacles. What's my limiting belief?
Mm.
Or maybe it's that I can only earn a certain amount of money, or I have to follow a plan or a
Mm.
methodology to be successful, things
Right.
like that. And that's what I love to explore. It's like that underlying aspect. So coming all the way back to the moon, I would say like if you're seeing the moon, that's also a good sign to go, well, maybe there are some things I need to ask about that aren't yet in my awareness that I could dive
Yeah.
deep.
Yeah. I love that you pulled the Knight of Pentacles because I wanted to talk to you about the Royals. So I could talk to you all day. I'm just like picking your brain like crazy, right? I'm a Sagittarius sun. So like it's like I'm loving to be able to even have conversations like these. Um, the Royals, people have an issue interpreting the Royals, right? And the royal family and what it means. So the way that I always learned it, and I love to pick your brain around the Royals, is when the Royals come up in the conversation, they typically are an aspect of your personality or somebody around you. They're like personality descriptors of some sort. Do you agree with that? How do you feel about the Royals and interpreting the Royals and all that good stuff?
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting because I think people find these cards hard because it's like, well, is that me? Like the person
Yeah.
asking the question, is it someone else? If it's someone
Mm-hmm.
else, who is it? All of the
Mm-hmm.
things. And then, if you pick up like really old school books on tarot, they tell you, oh, this is a person with blonde hair and blue eyes.
Yeah, I've
It's
seen
like,
that. I've seen that. Yeah,
what?
yeah, yeah. Maybe not.
Um,
Yeah. But I'll keep reading.
And like, oh, it's if it's a page, it's got to be someone young, and I
Yeah.
just don't really buy into that anymore.
Okay.
Um, but for me, yeah, you're absolutely on the right track. I think that the core cards are very much about like, yeah, aspects of personality. And so there's 16 of these cards. I believe we hold all 16 of these personalities.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know about you, but I know if I'm in one situation, I might be very Queen of Wands. I'm loving like
Yeah.
interacting with people. If I'm in another situation, maybe on Page of Swords, I'm more curious. I'm asking more questions.
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
Maybe like in my business, I'm like, King of Pentacles energy. I'm like being the
Right,
boss,
right.
CEO, and so on. And so when we see these cards in a reading, it's about how, like, what part of myself am I expressing or do I need
Yeah.
to express in order
Yeah.
to create these desired outcomes?
Love
Um,
it.
And then I'd like to just keep, like, if you're kind of new to tarot and you're working things out, I'd say just leave it at that. Like anytime you see a court card, it's an aspect of your personality.
Hmm.
But you know, you and I both know, like as you start to practice more, your intuition kicks into gear, and then you
Hmm.
can start to bring in this idea that yeah, it could be someone else, and
Right.
they're showing up. It could even be how a situation is unfolding. You know, if
Hmm.
I think of, say, like the Knights, for example, are on a mission, it's something where you've got an idea and now it's starting to take hold. It's not fully matured yet,
Yeah.
but that might speak to a project, not a person, you know?
Right. Right. So true. So true.
Yeah.
Um, So speaking of which, I have another question, of course. How would you, like, what sort of advice would you have for somebody who's listening? Because another question I get often is like, how do you synthesize? Like, how do you interpret when you are pulling, for example, a Celtic cross, or even if you're intuitively pulling and you're pulling three cards together? I know it comes with time and learning and experience, but anybody who's listening and like that's their pain point, they could tell you what the Five of Pentacles means by itself. They could tell you what the Devil means by itself. They could tell you what the Page of Pentacles is by itself, but you put all three of them together and they're like, duh. What sort of advice would you have for them?
Yeah, I think it's all stages of development and growth as a
Hmm.
tarot reader. So I always say, like, if you're just starting out, read just card by card. That's awesome. You're doing a great
Yeah,
job.
yeah.
And then, you know, like keep things simple. You can actually, I've seen like an hour-long reading done with one card. So don't feel
Hmm.
like, you know, you're getting less because you're only pulling one card. You can actually
Right,
get a whole
right.
lot more from just one card. Um, but then, you know, once you start feeling like, oh yeah, I'm in flow with that, that's feeling good, then starting to do more practice with even just two or three cards in a reading can
Hmm.
be great. And I like to look at what are some of the common themes? So are they major arcana cards? Are they minor? What are their
Yeah,
numbers? What's
the
their, you know,
colors.
colors? Yeah,
Hmm.
symbols. And just start paying attention to these, like, let's say the three cards as an integrated picture, or even as pages. I like to think of, say, pages of a storybook that one leads
Yeah.
to the other, and
Hmm.
look at how it evolves as you go from like left to right. What does
Hmm.
it look like as a full picture? And even I'm just got a couple of cards here, like, oh yeah. So even if we have, we've got the Knight of Pentacles and the
Hmm.
World here, and if you can see the video, you can notice that they're
Hmm.
actually looking towards each other, and so that might be
Yeah.
something interesting that you talk about in this card, like,
Right.
you know, you're working hard with the Knight of Pentacles, taking all the right steps, and you'll reach completion soon with the world.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
what's interesting is when you reach completion, maybe you will be able to look back and see, notice all of the steps you took, and then maybe you can apply those to the next project that you have.
Right.
'Cause, you know, think about the world, she's stepping through that wreath. Anytime you complete
Mm.
something, you've already initiated a beginning of something new.
Exactly.
And so you can
Yeah.
take all the lessons of the past because she's looking towards the past, take those lessons of the Knight of Pentacles and start to integrate them into the next phase of your project. So it's just
Love it.
looking beyond, you know, just straight meanings, but what's that
Hmm.
flow? What's the story being told in the cards?
Exactly. What is the story being told? Exactly. So true. So true. I wanted to talk to you, Bridget, because you are obviously a successful business owner, and I am super, super passionate about helping baby witches, mystics, healers, tarot readers build up their businesses and really build up those confidence codes to be visible and be in their power and all that. And you've been doing this a while, 95. What was it like to start building a witchy business in such an interesting time like the 90s? And what kept you going?
Yeah, I don't know. You know, it was, yeah, it was definitely hard back then because like we've been talking about how tarot has really been coming into the mainstream,
Right.
I would say in the last like 5 years,
Yeah.
really. But back then, yeah, it was very kind of shrouded in mystery and like
Hmm.
still thought of very as very like woo woo.
Hmm.
And like I said at the start, like I found it really hard to find people like me because most
Yeah.
people were 60 plus. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and, great people, but I just was like, I can't really relate, this is
Yeah,
completely.
right.
And so those, like the first sort of 10, 15 years, I was just doing this on the side. I was working in a corporate
Mm-hmm.
career and I
Mm-hmm.
just had this creative outlet. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's actually where Biddy Tarot came from, because Biddy is a like nickname for Bridget. And
Ah,
I didn't want to use my actual name for tarot because I wanted to maintain this professional career in corporate.
yeah.
And so I felt like, oh, okay, I'll use a pseudonym for the business. Um,
Wow.
yeah, so at that point, it was very much about keeping it quite separate, and I kept it quite hidden.
Mm-hmm.
But there came a time when, well, one, I left corporate in 2012 to do my business, but even then, I was still a little bit like, oh, do I use my name or I don't?
Yeah.
And just going through that whole identity shift of like, should I associate me with my business? But I got to a point, I'm like, seriously, I can't keep living a double life. Like, if I'm going to do this
Yeah.
authentically, I need to show up authentically. I need to claim
Mm-hmm.
this and own it and be Biddy Tarot. I can't just have it as
Yeah.
like, oh, and this thing I did. Because I would keep saying to people, they'd go, oh, so what do you do? Oh, yeah, I give tarot readings and I teach tarot, but I used to work in corporate and I've got a master's degree. And I was
That
like, what the
part.
hell am I
Yep.
doing?
Mm-hmm. It's always the worst, right? It's like
Yeah.
I think that's a big learning curve with so many folks that decide to take this work on professionally. It's like you say what you do, or like you dance around what it is you do, like, an Akashic Records reader, well, I do like personal readings, kind of like I channel Archangel Metatron. You know what I mean? It's hard. It's very, very hard. And I do think, again, going back to that spiritual revolution idea, it really is beautiful that more and more people are accepting of our work because it makes it easier for us to come out of the broom closet. So a lot of people like to say, but at the same time, people are still kind of navigating through it. As far as business building goes, what pieces of advice would you have for anybody listening who's like, I'm ready to take my work seriously. I'm ready to be professional. I'm ready for that next phase. Like, I don't want this to just be a hobby where I read my friends on Friday night when we do game night. I want this to be like the thing.
Yeah. I think there's two big pieces of advice I would have. So the first one is really stay focused on the goal. And the goal
Yeah.
typically, when you're just starting out, is not actually to build a business. Your goal
Yeah.
is to attract and serve paying clients. And you
Yeah.
might go, oh, that sounds kind of the same. It's not really, because like
No.
I see this time and time again. People get so stuck on, what's my business name going to be? Is my logo pretty enough? Oh, I've got to build my website for the next, 12 months. And all of this stuff becomes a distraction. It's like, no, you are here to attract and serve paying clients. So what is it that
Mhm.
you need to do? What's the like shortest route to get to that point where you can actually serve a paying client? And do you need a whole website to do that? Probably not.
Right.
You could probably just reach out to a few people and just even verbally say, this is what my offer is. All you need is an offer and a price and a way to pay you, and you
That's
can
it.
actually start straight away. Because I have seen it time and time again where really well-meaning, tarot readers, they want to start their professional practice, but they get stuck with business name, logo, website, social media. I've got to get all of that going. Yes, you do that a little bit later on. Get those paying clients first.
Mhm.
And that's what gives you the momentum. So I think that's thing number one. And then thing number two is the money mindset. Like, I know we
Yeah.
could probably have an entire episode or entire series on this
On the
topic.
money mindset. Yeah, it's a
Mhm.
big one. It's a big one.
Yeah. Because again, time and time again, I hear things like, I shouldn't be charging for spiritual gifts.
I
I
was
don't
just going to
deserve to do
say,
well.
I like to think of the archetype of the spiritual professional as the starving artist archetype. Those two are
Yeah.
very similar in this weird idea that they have to suffer to be successful. It's so
Yes.
odd to me. Ah,
And then, equally that if I'm successful, someone else isn't. So I'm either taking it
Yeah.
away from another practitioner or I'm taking it away
Mm-hmm.
from my clients. You know,
Mm-hmm.
if I charge a high price, then they're going to be
Mm-hmm.
poor because they've paid
Mm-hmm.
for this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I think it's like, don't we all believe in infinite abundance and
Right.
potential? And
Right.
I always like remind my clients, like, you know what, when like it's an ad, if you're successful, more people are successful because of you.
Literally.
So if you can do amazing tarot readings, or intuitive healing sessions, or whatever it is that you offer, just imagine you are like, this is light worker stuff. This is the actual what light worker
Mm-hmm.
is when you're lit up, you are lighting up others and all around the world. So it's absolutely essential
Exactly.
to be creating a business that is sustainable in the long run, that pays you so that, you know, you can live a thriving life, and so that you can then inspire and support others in their transformation. Like it
So
can't be
true.
any other way.
Exactly. It cannot be any other way. I think what you're saying is like nail on the head. And I think people kind of get stuck and lost in all of these sort of 3D ideas and conditioning sets that we've kind of been built up on. And I got to have this to do this, and I got to do this to do that, and I can't do that until I do this. And, it's a way of, self-sabotage through fear, and then this idea around money. I mean, like you said, we could have a whole series on money mindset and money beliefs and worthiness as a relation to money. All I know is I just feel like if you have a dream and this is something that you feel called to do, it's not going to go away. I'll never
Mm,
forget getting my first tarot deck when I was 17 and going to get my education, and 3 degrees later, I ended right back up with my tarot deck.
mm.
Like, when you feel called to this work, it's not going to go anywhere. And I think that's the point. You can try to ignore the call all you want, but it's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah, yeah. And it's so interesting because I think sometimes we have these other experiences so that we can be called back to our real work, but
Yeah.
with you know, some really awesome skill sets. I think of my time
Hmm.
in in my corporate career, like thank goodness I did that because I learned so much about selling, marketing,
Hmm.
being part of a growing and thriving business.
Hmm.
I learned, yeah, my own business skills from that, how
Yeah.
to promote myself. All of that was as a
Hmm.
result of, you know, having having that time in corporate, and even yeah, my master's degree is in HR, human resources, and I thought,
Hmm.
oh gosh, I'm throwing this all away, like leaving corporate. But you know, now we have a team of like 15. We had 30 at one point, which was insane.
Wow.
And all of that HR stuff is coming back full circle. But now I've
Right.
got an opportunity to do it in a different way as well. Not how I
Right.
learned it at uni, but how do I, excuse me, how do I
I
apply
know.
like this more spiritual mindset and, you know, more feminine leadership, to HR principles? Yeah,
Yeah.
it
Ah,
comes
so
back.
true, so true. Bridget, thank you so much for being on and being so generous with your time. I would love to know, where can the people find you? How can they book with you? How can they work with you? What do you have going on in your universe right now?
Yeah, thank you for asking. So, definitely come over to biddytarot.com. We've got so many awesome resources for tarot readers,
It's
whether it's,
true,
you
so
know,
many.
like if you're just starting out or you want to advance your skills, like there's everything for you. So come over, and you'll see there's a little tab that has like free training and free resources. Jump in there. The other thing that's coming up is I am about to launch and release my next book, which is Intuitive Manifesting. And what I love
Congratulations.
about this book is I think it's a very unique manifesting technique that I don't think has been done anywhere else, which is
Wow.
to combine the whole concept of manifesting, but bring tarot and intuition into it. And
Yeah.
so intuitive manifesting shares these 4 steps of manifesting, but then how do you bring in that layer of intuition and using your tarot cards so that when you achieve your goals, they're actually so much more meaningful, so much more aligned, and they
Hmm.
happen so much more smoothly and easily. So that's all inside of intuitive manifesting. And I do have something special for your community as well. So if you want to get an idea
Guys,
and a
we're
feel,
getting a gift.
So those the 4 steps to manifesting, intuitive manifesting, you can get those over at biddytarot.com forward slash
Amazing.
4 steps. And you can download that straight away. And you also see where you can pre-order the intuitive manifesting book as well. So lots of
Amazing. And guys, we'll have all the links in the show notes, so make sure you look below, so that we can get in on that. I'm excited to learn more. I love a good manifestation technique.
yeah, yeah, super
Amazing.
powerful.
Amazing. Thank you so much for coming on, and I appreciate your time. And this has been a dream.
Oh, it's been a joy. I really enjoyed it. And I'm loving, where you're taking tarot and your own practice. It's yeah, really inspiring. And thank you for sharing that too with your community. It's
Thank
fantastic.
you. Thank you so much. As always, friends, you already know the drill. Share the episode, share it with your mama, share it with a friend, share it with your cousin, share it on the gram. Tag us both of our hashtags, our links, all of that will be down below. And I will see you in the next one. Don't forget to leave that 5-star review. Ciao, ciao for now. Hello, friends. I hope you loved today's episode. Make sure you share it with a friend, share it with somebody that you love, and tag me on the gram at Ashley Michelle 90 Day and let me know your thoughts. Leaving that 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify is literally what helps this work get to the right people. As you may or may not know, we are in the middle of a spiritual revolution, and us being able to get our hands on resources like this podcast and others is what is literally going to make the world go round. So do me this favor and please leave me a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and share the episode with somebody you love. It really, truly does mean the world to me. I love you so very much, and I will see you in the next one.